How you doing there, friends? This is Bill MacDonald, writing doctor, with parts 3 and 4 of our recorded video, how to get 3s and 4s on personal narrative. We've already done the brainstorming, the planning, and the introduction for a personal narrative, understanding the prompt page. And now in this video, I want to show you how you can use a remote control for storytelling, whether it's personal narrative or just a storytelling remote control, and the word horse, as in you've lost your voice, how to put voice inside a story. And I have both products available in English and Spanish. So if you purchase this recorded video for $15 on the link below, you will get sent to the PDF files, 25 copies of the storytelling remote in English or Spanish. You just have to let me know which one. And you also get 25 copies of the dual language HORSE acronym that will show you how to zoom in what I call box and explode one event in a personal narrative, so that the kids are not doing what we call bed-to-bed stories, where we're talking about everything that happened from the time we woke up, all the places we stopped along the way, to the time we got home. Now, for those of you that didn't see part 1 or 2, this prompt is going to be right about a special memory with a friend. So special is positive, and so when you think of the word wow, underline the word right, because that's where the prompt is, and circle O, the key words. And the key words were, write a personal narrative. The person is me, AL, actually lived or actually lied, if you're good at lying and telling a realistic story, about a narrative, about something nice, which is positive, that happened with a friend. Now, quick reminder, the picture was a little boy standing next to a pool. The person taking the picture could be the friend or the person that he is there with, but we don't want everybody in Texas just writing a story about what's in the picture. So not only do you want your kids to think outside the box, but think outside the picture. Try and think of a story that happens in a place with an event that responds to the prompt, with an ending, and the editing and revising, without making carbon copies of every essay so that they all sound the same. So as you can see there above my head, email me at writing_doctor@yahoo.com if you have any questions. Go to my website there, www.therightprescription.com, for all of our writing, math products, our training information, our videos, webinars. Our writing club is May the Fours Be With You, ELAR Writing and Reading Club, because we're preparing to transition to ELAR. You can find me on Teachers Pay Teachers at The Right Prescription. The right, not the right hand, but the right. So let's check out how to get a 3 or a 4 going to one place, having one event, responding to the prompt, and having a strong ending with an extension that talks about how your life is better or different based on the experience that you had. And because of the paper that we're going to use, how to write a rough draft on numbered lines, so that when you edit and revise in class, group, and partner settings, it'll be easier to talk about which lines have mistakes that you're wanting to fix. So let's check it out and show you what you get. This is the handout that you're going to get. You'll get a read version You can also ask for the print version, and it has everything that you're going to need for the brainstorming, the planning, the introduction, body, conclusion, and the editing, revising when you're done. Now, in my previous video, I went ahead and used what I call colorful intros to come up with this first paragraph, this first indentation. It took lines 1 through 9, and I'm not saying that you need a long introduction. You don't need 5 or 6 sentences, but if you're telling a story and you're going to limit it to one event, that gives you more space to have a more creative introduction and a conclusion. So if you think of the introduction as the appetizer, the body would be the meat, the way you respond to the prompt, green, would be the vegetable, having a good memory, and you ending the paper and taking the time to edit because of these lines that are numbered 1 through 26 would be what you do at the end. So this is on page 25 of the binder for those of you that have it. I always recommend that you do rough drafts, and I want you to look on the left hand side here. You can see the acronym HORSE, which stands for several things. So before I get into reading the introduction that we will talk about, I want you to see the acronym HORSE. This is the Spanish version, so I've got to flip it over so that you can see the English version. Has your personal narrative lost its voice? Is it hoarse? And so this animal, horse, is HORSE, but so that we could have actions and reactions, I went ahead and put horse, and let's see what all these little things stand for. What happens in a story, or what happened? You'll get a digital copy that says happened for personal narrative. The event as a topic sentence. What are you going to be doing in the body? Well, we're going to be fishing in the body of this story. The O, of course, is like a head, a circle. What are your head details? What are your thoughts and opinions while you're fishing? The A and R, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. What is the sequence of the event, the order of the event? If there's some reactions, what are they? And how do you respond to the prompt? Because we have to remember that we've got to focus on the parts of the experience that are a positive memory, and that you have to be with someone for the story, because the prompt has 2 key words: nice memory, with someone. If you have a nice memory but you're alone, you can only get a 1 or a 2 because you're only responding to half the prompt. If you're with a friend but it's nothing but negative experiences, you're going to get a 1 or 2 because you're not following the specific demands of the prompt. The S, what are your senses? Using the 5 senses, establish the setting. What can you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell in this special place that you're at? S, did you say anything? Was there any dialogue? The E, can you share any special emotions that happened before, during, or after the event? How do you plan on ending the story? What detail can you use? What transition sentence? And remember, if you're trying to get 3s and 4s, you can add an E for extension. The reader shows why the experience is important. The writer will show why the experience is important to him or her. And the last E that you can add to this list is the editing and revising. So I suggest that you draw a picture of a horse and then write this acronym HORSE, because everything that I have here in English, if you're a dual language teacher, you just flip it over and it pretty much has the same thing. Just tell the kids that when you're hoarse, this kind, it means that you've lost your voice, and papers without any voice don't have opinions, thoughts, emotions, senses, or las cosas que se dice, los sentidos, that's going to be out of the paper. It'll just be nothing but actions. I did this, and I did this, and I did this. Well, no. Life is what happens to you when you're doing something or on your way to do something. And that's the same way with voice. So I'm going to make a little reference to my personal narrative remote, and you also get a class set of these. In a storytelling remote, you have a power, skip, fast forward, play, slow, pause, next or focus, repeat, voice, mute, rewind, and stop button. And it briefly tells you what each one is in the introduction. You would typically, for a beginner student that's writing on regular paper with a pencil, have 2 to 5 lines. Skip would be all the blind details, the things that happened before the fishing even started or after the fishing already ended. Fast forward, sometimes you want to say something in 1 or 2 quick sentences to get your point across and then move on. Play would be 3 to 5 sentences, a somewhat developed event. My age or more to get a good score. So if you're a 4th grader and you want to get a 2-3 paper, then make sure your event has 3 to 5 sentences, your grade or more. But if you push the slow button, what we call the still step, we get to see the second by second details. Life happens at full speed, but reading and writing happen in slow motion. So we're going to teach kids how to eventually go from getting 2s and 3s by somewhat developing with force to 3s and 4s completely developing. Push the pause button once in a while so you can do teachable moments of instruction or intervention. Next, what transition words or phrases are you going to use? Focus. If you're taking too many pictures, too many ideas, too many events, we're going to run out of film. And so we have to remember to push the focus button so we can say, okay, I needed a picture of me arriving at the fishing place, a picture of me actually fishing and catching a fish, and a picture of me holding the fish at the end. And those pictures, when you're developing those main ideas, you'll turn them into videos. The voice is the toes, the thoughts, opinions, emotions, the senses. Writing with your ears is what's the event, the actions, the reactions, the senses, what you say, the emotions. The horses, which we're going to talk about, the whistle is. If you're going to use my train for your plan, what attention getters do you have? Woo, woo, that make the train blow its whistle. The mute button, we don't want a conversation, we want a composition. And so if there's too much talking, there's too much dialogue in the story, I would suggest you tell your kids, think of dialogue as ketchup. And if the introduction is the bun, the meat is the body, and the conclusion is the other bun, if there's talking and talking and talking, every single sentence that has dialogue, put some red ketchup, and pretty soon, if there's too much dialogue, you're going to have more ketchup than you will burger. And let's not do that. And while we're talking about that, you can think of salsa as the figurative language or how to have vocabulary. We want some, but we don't want to go crazy with salsa. Don't put too much salsa. Let's put some hot sauce on our burger, not burger on our hot sauce. We want to make sure the reader enjoys our story, but that we don't cram too much figurative language down their throat, because what we're going to get is what I call reader's diarrhea. There's going to be so many similes and metaphors, etc. When we push the rewind button, that's what a personal narrative is. I need a real or a realistic story from my past. And then when you're done, you can rewind by editing and revising. Let's make the story a little bit better as a class, in groups, and with a partner. And your stop button. What conclusion, what ending are you going to have? What caboose are you going to use? How are you going to put on the brakes? If there are no brakes, if there is no conclusion, we're going to crash. because I call that whiplashing the reader. We're just going to suddenly stop, and just like with expository, if there is no ending or conclusion, we can't get 3s and 4s. So with that in mind, as you can see, I also have the Spanish version of that. So those of you who signed up for my Spanish trainings, you'll be getting the process of writing in expository, expository, personal narrative, editing, and revising. So let's take a look and see what I wrote for the introduction and how we can transfer to the body. Our main focus is going to be, how can I have one event and a conclusion? So I want you to notice on my rough draft, I went 2 lines past. So we're going to have to decide, in order to fit it into 26 lines, we're going to have to get rid of at least 1 or 2 sentences. Or I tell my students, you could write a little bit smaller, but this was written using a computer so that you could read it better. All right, introduction. Remember, anything that's positive, we can use this green pencil that you can see barely, and we'll underline either positive memory or time with a friend. My friend and boat captain, Michael Chapa. Oh, there's me with my friend. Okay, I've already responded, and that's green because green is like the veggies that respond to the prompt. Yelled over the roar of his brand new $50,000 boat. Are you ready to catch your limit in reds, Bill? That's starting with dialogue. You can start however you want. My whistle, my attention getter, is using dialogue. It was barely the break of dawn when, as we were flying, across the water, spelling that we can fix later, in the channel where, at Port Mansfield where, Texas where. He had just been out a few days before when, and the red drum, were running through an area where, called the saucer, where. There was a soft, gentle breeze, weather, coming from the south, where, and my mind, thoughts, was racing, imagining what I might catch today. Thoughts. I was excited emotion and anxious emotion for the wonderful experience opinion I was about to have with him the next 5 hours. That was called a transition sentence. So here's the acronym HORSE. What happened? Fishing. As soon as we arrived in the area we're going to fish, event, main idea, Captain Mike, I don't need that comma there, so edit, turned off the engine and through spelling. So I intentionally made some mistakes. So if your kids look at this, and they will say, oh, that's a homophone. We don't want that kind of through, because I go through the wall. He threw it. That's a verb. He threw some yellow umbrella looking things in the water. They would keep us drifting slowly. And keep in mind, those are called actions. Opinion, incredible experience. Here it comes. This is going to be an incredible experience. Opinion. I wonder how big my first redfish will be and how long it will take to bring it in. Thoughts. So inside my head are my opinions and thoughts during the event. He already had my fishing pole ready. Senses, I could see that. So he handed it to me, action, and set me to the front of the boat, action. I flipped the bail, vocabulary, pulled the rod back over my right shoulder, action, and flung the tip forward as quickly as I could. My first cast landed about 50 yards away. Senses, you can see that. With a splash, senses, you can hear that. And I began to reel it in. We were using artificial lures, vocabulary. So, coordinating conjunction, it was a matter of constantly casting and reeling over and over. After the 4th or 5th cast, my rod, so that's called fast forwarding. I don't want to tell you every single cast. I just want to tell you about when I catch the fish. My rod suddenly tilted down to the water. Action, reaction. A huge red had grabbed the lure and was hooked. That's my imagination because I don't really know. My heart began to race. Showing voice. I'm excited, but I'm showing you how I feel as the fish and I battled back and forth. He kept taking out drag. So if you want to put automatopoeia, you can make that sound of the line going out. Zzz. But after about 5 minutes, he got tired emotions and gave up reaction. Transition to my conclusion. When Mike reached over the edge of the boat with his net, action, he got the fish by its mouth, action, pulled out the hook, action, and measured its length. Not it is. If I would have said it is, I would have tossed my imaginary ball up and say it is, and you can separate. It is. It was 35 inches long, census, so I had to use my tag. And so just for you that are not experienced with fishing for reds, if you catch one that's 30 inches or more, you have to use a little tag, a little plastic sticker that's on your fishing license, because they don't want you taking too many big fish out of the water. And from my experience, I believe that you can get one more tag. That way you can catch 2 big ones per year. Dialogue. Thanks so much, I screamed. Extension, conclusion, how my life is different or better. We caught several other nice sized fish that day, but none of them compared to the first one. I took a picture with it to keep in my room. So I'm going to have that memory forever. Thanks so much is the positive part. Catching the 35-inch red is the positive part. And being able to catch it, because a lot of times when you catch a fish, you lose him because either you're reeling in too fast or too hard, or you don't have the drag set, those kind of things. So keep in mind that when we write our final draft, we have to remove something. We have to fix those few grammar mistakes that we found. That's the editing. Removing content is revising, and that way our final draft can be written on paper without any line numbers, because we only want to do the lined papers with line numbers for our rough draft. That way when we do look at it as a group, we can make it better. So let me know if you have any questions. Along with the video, you are going to receive, let me show it from my handout. It's a really cool, a couple of cool activities that will come with the, you're gonna get all of the personal narrative prompts. I have about, for the price, oh, I don't know what happened. Stop sharing. Let me see. Share my screen from the document camera. There it is. Okay, so you'll get about 20 personal narrative prompts with this $15 purchase. You'll get my graphic organizer that comes with it. Like I said, a class set of the storytelling remotes in English or Spanish, a class set of the horse sheets. You'll get this sheet that's called Live Composition Ideas, because so many kids have limited experiences. You will get an activity called picture writing, where because I have limited experience, I'm going to use this picture of some guy catching a fish to put myself in his shoes, and I'm on a boat just like I was. I wrote just the introduction there, and that's what I transferred over. And so I have about 30 to 40 pictures where your kids can do what we call picture writing. It's going to come with a brainstorming memory bank of ideas for personal narratives and stories. So throughout the year, as your kids have more and more experiences, you can ask them to briefly tell you some things they did over the weekend, and they can add it to their memory banks. in their writing journal, their writing dialogue. This was the page that we used for the rough draft, and there's one on the next page in the binder, page 26. We'll have that same sheet without numbers. So God bless you guys. Have a great day, and thank you for watching this video. Please do me a favor, if you know someone in your school or district or a friend of yours who's doing personal narrative right now, this video will clearly help them how to have one place with one event that responds to the prompt with a strong ending. May the force be with you.